Hey everybody, this is So Many Sequels. I'm Josh.
I'm Garrett.
And I'm David.
Welcome to the show where it's like officially summertime. I think we can say maybe not on the meteorological calendar or whatever they call it, but the summer movie season is here for better or for worse. We'll talk about that later. And we're right in the middle of a Mad Max series right now. You guys should check out our review of Fury Road, Mad Max Fury Road, out on YouTube and wherever you get podcasts. And this week we're going to talk about Furiosa, Mad Max story, the follow-up / prequel to Fury Road, this time starring Anya Taylor-Joy as Furiosa. So we're going to talk about that later in the week. Be sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel, So Many Sequels, to get that when it drops, or subscribe to our podcast wherever you download podcasts. But before we do all that, let's talk about what else we've been up to this week. Now, I want to start with David just because we can finally talk about the culmination of this Apes journey that you've been on, because you have fully caught up with the Apes, right? You've seen all the planets.
I am Ape now. Apes, together, strong. Josh? Yes? Garrett, throw your ones up.
I'm just over here being a human. I haven't seen him yet.
Caesar.
One's up for the tribal chief then? Can I get that? Yeah? Yeah, there we go. One's up for Cody Rhodes? Oh, no. All right, interesting. All right.
I'm an
yes,
AEW guy, or used to be. I can't be anymore.
My Apes journey is now completely complete. I have seen Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes, and I have now watched 10 ape movies in 2 weeks. I think it's more like 13 days, but it has been an incredible journey from 1968 all the way to 2024. Almost 60 years of filmmaking in one franchise.
It's crazy.
So
impressive.
I've seen the highs, I've seen the lows, and it's apt that the lowest low in the franchise is literally called Beneath the Planet of the Apes, because that's where it belongs, the very bottom. Interestingly enough, I watched the 2001 remake with Tim Burton, Mark Wahlberg, and it surprised to me, not my least favorite. It's not nearly close to my favorite. It's still like in the bottom 3, but there was more there that I could find to actually like than with 2 of the others. So yeah, I saw Kingdom. It was good.
Yeah, what'd you think of Kingdom?
I've been through a bit of a weekend, so I did get a little dozy towards the middle.
You watched it today, yesterday?
I did. I watched it today. I watched it this afternoon.
Is it recording? Okay.
This afternoon, so Memorial Day weekend, Sunday Memorial Day weekend, I watched it to a pretty good crowd.
Nice.
It was maybe like a 65, 70 seat theater, and it was probably 50 people in there. So,
all right.
Not bad for a Sunday matinee, 3 weeks after release or whatever it's been now. So, I enjoyed it, but it probably was. Honestly, it was probably like 30 minutes too long. Yeah. And we had heard someone say it was like 3.5 hours, and we were like, no,
not quite that long.
But it probably was. I don't know. I know, Josh, you had seen it as well. It did feel like there was just a point where I was like, oh man, still a lot to go. I checked my
watch a couple times. Yeah.
Yeah, I looked at my phone at one point and I realized there was an hour and a half left. I went, oh my, I've got a while to go. But it was very interesting because it's obviously set a good amount of time after the new trilogy.
Yeah.
And there's sort of a commentary there about legacy, you know, and how things change over time, because now the story that we know very well, because we got to live it, some of the details are a little off. Some of the details are a little shaky.
They've played centuries of telephone.
Yeah, it's become myth and legend. You know, that's the Apes, they don't really have writing or stuff. So, like, I assume they have mostly a spoken tradition,
right?
Or an oral tradition. So some things have gotten lost along the way. So that was very interesting. But also, just like, I'm very curious where they're going with this. Josh will talk off mic about what I thought was about to happen at the very end.
Okay, yeah, but put a pin in that.
Yeah, but I think it's not my favorite. It's going to probably go right in the middle in terms of the overall. Now that I've seen all of them, the overall is probably going to go in like the 5 spot. But at the same time, I think it's a good start if they're going to
right.
do a new one. I'm excited to see where it goes from there.
Well, by default, you are the now resident Planet of the Apes expert on the show. So anyone listening out there who has questions about Apes lore or anything can direct those to David's social media handles. He will.
You guys want to know the difference between an ape and a monkey?
I feel like I know that, but I'm too afraid to get it wrong. I don't remember.
Too afraid to commit.
Yeah, what is it?
Monkeys have a tail. Apes
Ah, that's right.
So
Yeah.
no ape or no tail.
Yeah, and a chimp is not
ape.
an ape.
Yeah, chimp,
Got it.
orangutan, bonobo.
All right. Well, Garrett, you and I both saw the same new movie separately, but we both got to see it and haven't gotten to talk about it much. So, what better time to do it than now on the show? You and I both caught screenings of the new A24 film. I saw The TV Glow, starring Justice Smith and Bridget Lundy Page. This is a hard to describe movie. It's definitely artistic with a capital A. There's a lot of metaphor and messaging going on. It's kind of sold as a horror movie, I feel, but not. That may not be your experience with it.
Well,
so what'd
because
you
isn't one of the main images kind of referential Poltergeist?
in a way, yeah. There's definitely some imagery to that. The setup, if I may, is these two people kind of connect in their youth over the shared love of this obscure TV show. And then throughout life, strange things happen connected to the show in their lives, basically. But it gets pretty heavy. What'd you think, Garrett? How'd you come out of it?
Ooh, it came out of it heavy, Doc.
Yeah.
And I think that's its intent,
Yeah, I do
realistically.
too.
And so I think the movie is good. It's definitely a think piece. I mean, it is one of those A24 artistic thinking pieces that they put out and has a lot of messaging. And if you are unaware of any kind of the messaging and you do think that you're walking into a horror movie, you're going to be very disappointed in your expectations. I didn't find it to be a horror movie. I found it to be melancholy and suffocating. And again, I mean that with a compliment. It may not
Mr.
sound like it, but
Melancholy,
again,
perhaps.
yeah, the movie is that way. It is interesting. Coming out of it, I listened to another film podcast to they are more qualified than I to talk about like the messages and the meaning behind it, but it does help you give context that you may or may not have. And so walking out of the movie and listening to that really gave me a greater appreciation and a better understanding of the movie itself. And so that was also really helpful for me. If you're interested in doing that, it was Pop Culture Happy Hour. So I recommend them to listen to as well. It's helpful to kind of get some context, but I really enjoyed it.
I did too. There's a lot of deeper messaging in there, and I listened to that same podcast and have read some other things and have seen a lot of the same kind of way people have approached this movie. There's a lot you can get out of it. The filmmaker, Jane Schoenbrunn, she's the writer-director of this and kind of has talked a lot in interviews about a connection to Buffy the Vampire Slayer, some of these other 90s shows, and that kind of ties into the fake show we have in this. And there's also a deeper message about gender dysphoria going on in here that a lot of people may not even see on the surface, but is going to really affect a lot of other people who will see it. And having it explained to me through that podcast and through some other readings, I was like, oh my gosh, now I can't believe I didn't see it. But there's just a lot of messaging in there about identity and being vulnerable enough to own your identity and all that kind of difficult things you work with. So it ended up being much more of a thinker and an emotional piece than I expected, but I say that very complimentary. I don't think David, you could watch it because it's not scary. Yeah, it's not scary.
Perfect.
I don't think there's anything scary in it. Like there's some scary imagery at times, but it's kind of ham-fisted because most of it's related to the kids show. if that makes sense.
Yeah. So it's more so
Anyway,
just
Are
kind
You
of like
Afraid of
maybe
the Dark?
unsettling
Yeah.
at times.
Maybe unsettling at times, yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
But it's not like a movie that's going to scare the pants off you. And then I see you put here. You also saw Challengers. What did you think on Challengers?
You know what? It was fun. It was very enjoyable.
Yeah.
I don't think it hit me in the same way that it's hit everybody else.
Sure,
And
that's fair.
I think it's because it's a longer movie of just fascinating people, but also awful people. And I can only handle awful people for a certain amount of time. And so there was a certain point where I was like, I'm so over every single one of you that I cannot take it anymore. But I also want to keep going. And so it was so much fun. I do recommend that one for sure to most anybody, because I think that anyone can find something in it to be intrigued by.
Yeah, I gotta say I recommend it too. I definitely really enjoyed it. So, and the word of mouth has been pretty positive for this movie. Very buzzy movie. I think people are enjoying it if they connect with it. Because these characters are so hateable, but they're also like, you can't stop watching what they'll do next.
I know, it's the best kind of like mess to watch.
Yeah,
It's got that Zendaya.
it's got that Zendaya that people
She's
are talking
so hot
about
right now.
Yes, exactly. All right, we've been watching a range of things this week. Let's talk about what else is coming up. One big thing later this summer, here locally, if you're in Tulsa or in the surrounding area, you need to check out Circle Cinema Film Festival. And we're getting really excited about that. It's coming up here in July 11th through July 15th. It is all Oklahoma themed. Going to be 5 days of some of the best new independent art, music, and film from Oklahoma. So be sure to check that out. You can go to circlecinema.org to find out more about that. And of course, listen to this show because we're going to be talking about it more over the next several weeks as well. And maybe then some. I don't know. We'll see. But for now, put Circle Cinema Film Fest on your calendars. You're going to want to see it.
I was able to go a few years ago, and one of the most interesting movies that I have seen in as far as a documentary goes is an Oklahoma filmmaker. I can't remember the name of it, the director or the movie, but it was about stained glass. And as boring as I bet nobody's ever thought of that as like an interesting topic, but the way they tell this story and the stained glass that they are building and the style that doesn't exist that they have to invent to create this thing turns out to be a very fascinating thing. So you never know what you're going to get at this festival.
Yeah, totally. Again, circlecinema.org. The lineup is not out yet. The judging panel is still picking through the submissions. Submissions are closed, but hopefully later on in June we will find out what the lineup's going to consist of. So, yeah, can't wait for that. Follow them on social media for those updates as well. Other big news related to things that the three of us enjoy. We got a title for this new Knives Out movie. The internet is lit aflame with the latest clues from Rian Johnson.
I know. So, new movie is called Wake Up, Dead Man.
Yeah.
Or Wake Up, Dead Man. I don't know. Who knows what the inflection's supposed to be. But Benoit Blanc's going to yell it at somebody at some point during the movie. I said,
so?
Wake up, dead man.
It's great because it's one of these things where, like, we can't speculate anything based off that title. But it's still fun to have the information.
Other than we have learned, it's also the title of a U2 song.
I think you went a little too deep on that end, maybe.
Clues there. Well, hey, Glass Onion is a Beatles song. So, like,
That's
I think
okay.
it's not a coincidence.
You're not crazy for that, I guess.
I'm not crazy. I'm just a little unwell. I know right now you can't tell, but stay a while and pretty soon you'll see a different side of me.
Yeah. I don't think we have a release date for this movie yet, but
2025. That's
I want
all
it
we know,
now.
I think.
I want it now.
I want it now. Not.
I gotta
not
be-
2025.
Gotta be
We
real, I
should
was
do
not
our,
as high on Glass Onion as you two were, but that's mostly just because I feel like I solved it quickly and it didn't ever change for me. I never had another suspect that I was even close to assuming.
Yeah.
But it doesn't change anything. There's still so much fun to watch because it's an A-list cast, probably. I don't think we know who's in this yet, do we?
No, not yet.
Yeah.
Other
So-
than
Just
Daniel
Daniel
Craig.
Sure, but it's gonna be amazing. I'm ready. Give me it. Day one.
Yes. We should do our own fan cast. We should get together, piece in who we want. So I'll give a little speculation just because of the title, just because of what Rian said the day that he posted the announcement. He said that what he loves about whodunits is the malleability of the genre to be anything, to be several things. There's a wide range of whodunits. So I'm wondering, with the title, Wake Up Dead Man, I feel like it could be one of three things. It could be a very personal story. So it could be maybe something where Benoit's a little bit more personally involved in whatever happens. There could be like a supernatural kind of vibe, like we've seen with some Sherlock Holmes things, like we saw with Haunting in Venice, the most recent Hercule Poirot, where maybe there's like a supernatural kind of vibe to it. Maybe it's just going to be a little bit more violent, Maybe there's just going to be, because there's like a coffin that plays prominently in the announcement teaser. So like maybe it's just going to be a slightly more violent movie than the last two have been. Well, I don't know if they'll go hyper violent or anything like that, but maybe it's just a bit more, maybe there's a more violent killing than the last two have really had. I'm just excited. I'm excited to see what happens.
Yeah, I'm excited to expect
quietly
a good time.
Yes.
Speaking of expecting of a good time, though, did you guys also catch the new Beetlejuice trailer?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
I did. It played right before the movie today.
Did it? I haven't seen it on the big screen yet, but I did watch it on YouTube when it dropped the other day. I was a little nervous because the teaser, didn't show us too much. But I also didn't. I'm so sick of watching trailers that show me too much, so I'm always hesitant. But I thought it looked pretty okay. It didn't really push me away at all. I'm into it. Keaton looks great. Winona Ryder looks great.
I think it will be fun. I have concerns because lately all of these sequels have just been missing something. Look at all the Ghostbusters, all of these like comedy reboot type things have not quite stuck the landing, and so I have concerns.
I kind of wish that they had done the same technique for this sequel that they did on The Leftovers, where they kind of like, however they did it, they kind of made that movie look like it was kind of shot in the 70s. Like, I wish they had done whatever they did there to kind of make this movie look like it's from the same time period as the original Beetlejuice, because I feel like that, for whatever reason, to me, would have felt like it adds to the feel. Because, like, almost watching the trailer, especially on the big screen, it looks too clean. Like, it kind of just looks too, like, everything's a little too, like, clear in a weird way. And so it doesn't necessarily look like Beetlejuice. It kind of looks like an SNL recreation of Beetlejuice in some ways, because everything's so polished. I am interested to see what happens, because this genre of sequelizing movies from like 35 years ago has been so hit and miss.
Right. That's very true, especially with Michael Keaton's attempts to return as Batman. Those have been fraught with missteps, not even on his end. So
yeah, like sometimes, like with Fury Road or Top Gun Maverick, it works. Yeah. And then some with like the new, like you said, Garrett, the new Ghostbusters movies, like it's just kind of, or even like the Jurassic World stuff. Like sometimes it's just like, I don't know, something's missing here. The spirit's not there.
Yeah, I think that's a really good spot there to transition into the state of the box office right now. Give us a little update, David, on what these first little bit of the summer has been like, because the internet, the media is going to tell you that every movie theater is actually burning down right now. And all movies have been canceled forever.
There's a lot of gloom and doom. There's a lot of gloom and doom. And we definitely, I think we can kind of break this out to a more broad discussion about this whole thing, because we'll talk about it more in this week's episode. But Furiosa really kind of opened very low. And not to be like every movie has to open over 100 million. They don't. But if this kind of really needed to open in the range of at least 45 to 55, and its opening weekend, it's looking like in the 25 to 26 million range. Like, this movie opened as well as Civil War, A24's Civil War, which is like, that's a movie that's doing really well for A24, which is a smaller distributor. But for Warner Brothers and for a franchise like this, people are just, I think, had a higher expectation, or at least an expectation similar to Fury Road. I'm going to say that a lot of people are very gloom and doom. The box office is bad. Theaters are burning down. It's not entirely unfounded, but like we don't need to take it that far. The box office for this summer is not living up to the higher standards of last year. We are 25 to 26% down from last year for the same time period. We are pretty much in line with 2022. Obviously, we're still way up compared to 2021 and 2020 when the pandemic was at its heights. But, you know, I think people thought that after 2023 and after Barbenheimer and after the big successes that we had towards the end of the year, like, man, the box office is back and like movies are back and we're ready to do this. And when Dune opened up really well at the beginning of the year, people were like, yeah, we're back. Cinema's here. But these first few movies to start off May, the summer season is one of the two bigger parts of the year for movie going. And it's just opening really weird with The Fall Guy. And, a little bright spot is Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes actually had a 50 million plus open.
So what's the deal then? These are great movies, according to critics, according to audiences who are going. What's the deal?
So this is what drives me crazy. And Josh, I gave you a preview of this earlier. And Garrett, I want your thoughts on this as well. Is that one of the top complaints I see? Well, the top complaint I see is that movies cost too much to go see. And we'll address that in a second. But one of the top complaints I see is people saying, well, they should just make good movies. And I'm like, well, look at the reviews. You can look at Rotten Tomatoes, look at the critic score and the audience score. For Fall Guy, I looked it up earlier. For Fall Guy, it's like 83% and 82% or something like that. For Furiosa, it's like 93% and 88% or something. Like, I'm probably have these numbers slightly off. You can look at the Letterboxd scores. They're very good. Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes, good. And I guarantee you, in about 4 to 3 weeks, we are going to hear The Fall Guy and Furiosa are like one of the top streamed movies on whatever platform they end up on. Because that's what happened with The Marvels. That's what happened with The Flash. That's what happened with Morbius. That's what happened with all these movies that bomb, or Madam Web. All these movies that are bombing the box office end up doing huge numbers on streaming. And sometimes they don't get good reviews like Madam Web. But like, clearly there's interest in the movies and people want to see them. And people clearly like them because they get high scores from critics. So like, Hollywood's making good movies. They just can't figure out how to get people to go see them. And I don't know.
Well, there's too much access. Everybody knows. I mean, I think the cost is one. For sure. But I do think that people also know that movie's going to end up on one of the 12 services that they already pay for. So why go pay an extra X amount of money when they know that they can either rent it on Amazon for $3.99 or $5.99 or whatever whenever it's streaming, and stay home and do that and do other things. I also think that at some point in time, Hollywood's going to have to readjust, and they are going to have to stop making billion-dollar movies and expecting billion-dollar profits.
Yep.
Because they have got to invest in smaller movies because people aren't going. So, I think that a good test is going to be Deadpool and Wolverine. I think if that movie tanks, then they need to do something else. Because I had said, or one of my predictions was that something's going to have to step up to fill in the void of superhero movies. And I had predicted that these long epics might do it. But I also I think I was wrong, because clearly people don't want to go sit in a movie theater for 2.5 hours unless they are really interested in it. So I think that they're going to have to go shorter. They're going to have to go smaller. And I think that they're going to have to not release as many and let theater runs go longer too.
When I look at the reasons people say they don't go, the number one, like I mentioned, people saying the movie should be good, but the number one reason everybody comes back to is it costs too much. And that is not a studio's problem. That is a theater's problem. And it is possible. It is totally possible. Because you know what? I saw Furiosa yesterday for $7. $9 plus service fee. Like, I went to an 11 a.m. matinee. Now, I was me and 3 other people. But at the same time, like, you can find cheap movie tickets somewhere around you. And I went to the Regal in Broken Arrow. Like, that's a humongous theater, and I got it and it was a very cheap ticket. But people talk about, they have their families, they're trying to maybe just go with just one other person, and you try to go to like a primetime showing on Friday night, and it's $30 for the two of you, or maybe even more sometimes. That's tough. Yep. And so and then the other thing I've seen a lot of people talking about is the etiquette and the service at theaters is depreciating year over year, and we've seen theater chains with smaller and smaller staffs. There's no such thing as an usher anymore when you go to a theater most of the time. So people are just on their phones or being disruptive or all kinds of things, and there's no way to wrangle that in other than to go complain to the front office, which means you have to leave your movie to go complain. I think movie theaters are going to have to consider if it's possible for them to charge less so that they can make more, or find some. Now they've done $5 movie day or whatever, or $3 movie day, and I think they saw a big influx of people coming in, but obviously you're charging less, so you're making about the same amount anyway.
Yeah, one thing that does kind of, yes, the theaters or the studios are not really responsible for the ticket prices. However, remember that the studios do kind of have a monopoly on how many screens get shown, what movie, and they kind of dictate what the theaters get to show. So in a way, they are kind of controlling pricing and availability, which seems totally unfair to me, but I don't know the breakdown of how those deals work. That's always been Netflix's whole fight with theater chains, is the exclusivity.
I would think that if you're the theater, if you're required to allot X amount of screens for a movie, then you can just say, hey, we're going to charge less for these. And if we've got this many screens being taken up, we're just going to spread it out because we can get more people in if the tickets are less.
My last thing, and this is going to be comparing distribution models, not companies, so I'm sure some finance person will want to come at me. But I did a little bit of digging before this, and Disney Plus, I'll pick them because they're one of the big studio backed ones. Did not turn a profit in 2023. AMC theaters did. So what am I missing? The streamers are money losers, guaranteed.
Yeah.
So if you're going to put your focus into these streamers, you're going to kill movies.
Yeah, I mean the 45-day window thing is one part of what a lot of people cite as destroying it. Is why go see a movie in the theater when it's going to be streaming in a month and a half and I can see it for essentially free. I mean, I'm already paying, something you're already paying for, and I get that philosophy. I mean, I've done it with a movie with movies I wasn't really interested in.
Yeah. Lots to talk about, lots to think about with the box office this year. Lots to doom and gloom about, I'm sure, until one thing comes out that makes $100 million, and then it will inevitably be called the savior of movies. I'm just predicting all of this now because it will occur. All right, well, let's go ahead and wrap up this portion of the show. Be sure to subscribe here on YouTube. If you're watching here and you haven't subscribed yet, do that. So you can also get our review of Furiosa when we drop that later on. And you can go back and watch all of our old videos as well. Check out some shorts we make from time to time. You just got to subscribe. And then if you prefer the podcast version, that is in your favorite podcasting app. We're in pretty much all of them as far as I know. So just search So Many Sequels there. And then obviously you can go to SoManySequels.com and check out a back catalog of all of our past episodes. We've got them there. We will see you guys next time.